This podcast is brought to you by the Startup Core Podcast and by Revival, Book 1 of the Unveiled book series.
The Final Frontier Podcast. These are the voyages of Jake Boger and Justin Spur. Our weekly mission to explore memories of Star Trek's strange new worlds, to recall the search for new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has had the spare time to go before.
This is another one of those I went like, is it because it's the 1960s? Is this another one of those? Was consent loose? Anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get there. But anyway, we are talking about the episode Miri.
Miri.
This episode takes place between star dates 2713.5 to 2717.3. The in-universe date is 2266 still, and the original air date is October 27th, 1966. Episode was written by Adrian Spies, or Spies. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's spelled like Spies, but it's probably pronounced Spies. We'll figure it out. And directed by Vincent McEvety, because it's McEveety. McEvety.
So my note on the Paramount Plus description, and it's a twofold note, okay? Because I actually did look something up this week. I promised myself I never would, but I had to. So I said, "Is the note on the description is this a Children of Corn thing? Because it sure sounds like a Children of Corn thing." And my question is that too niche of a reference?
Yes and no.
And no. So what made that particular note kind of funny was later on, to kind of jump ahead a little bit, I said that the episode really reminded me of that episode of South Park where they make the adults disappear. I don't want to say the name of it because I don't want to get us demonetized. But the episode where they make, and then I looked it up, and that episode of South Park is actually based on this episode.
Is it really? Oh,
yeah.
It's
based on this episode and the Children of Corn. It's kind of a dual thing. So
yeah,
the note that it reminded me of Children of Corn, I thought that was extra funny.
And I constantly forget how big of Star Trek fans Matt and Trey are. And like even in season one of my favorite episodes, just for the stupidest reason, you of course know what I'm talking about when I say planetarium.
Welcome to the planetarium.
Oh yes, the planetarium. Yes, I do. Of course I do. That's attacks in my South Park knowledge there.
That episode is too based on a Star Trek episode. But it's also the origin of my penchant for pronouncing the word aquarium, aquarium.
That's so.
Just to piss people off.
That's so funny.
So, would you like to go to the aquarium? And you'd be amazed how many people just stare at me blankly, not understanding what I just said.
There's something else. I do that as well, and it's become such an ingrained thing. Whenever you hear me call it Channing's Tatum, or Channing's Tatum or Channing's Tatums. That I got from a podcast. There's just certain references I'll make where I'm like, I've just done them so, we talked about Sausage Party. Me and Jordan will often be like touch tips, and that comes from that movie. Sometimes they become so ingrained that you're like, you don't even know where the reference comes from. That's why I love we're like, oh, I know this. Why do I know this? It's an episode of South Park.
So our story begins, our very uncomfortable story, in multiple ways. Begins with the Enterprise answering a distress call, something we've seen before. Upon arriving at the planet, the crew discovers it's an exact duplicate of Earth, down to the geography and atmosphere. And it was funny because when I was watching the episode, I'm like, that planet looks suspiciously like Earth. And then the
Well,
North America popped up. I'm like, oh, it's Earth.
it's Earth. Well, my thing. Okay, yeah, that I forgot about that bit. First of all, they describe it as an Earth-style distress signal. Does that mean other species have their own style? So you're like, that's a Vulcan-style distress
Yeah,
signal.
actually, yes. And
Oh, interesting.
when they say that, what they would be referring to is pre-Federation.
Oh,
Obviously, dealing because like when you get a Klingon distress signal, you know it's a Klingon
yeah,
distress signal. Now you might still get post-Federation. You still might get a Vulcan distress signal. It would just be like a Vulcan science vessel, just for
gotcha.
example.
I thought maybe it meant like they were using like Morse code. Like that was
I
like
mean,
they were
maybe,
really old school.
maybe potentially.
And
I
then
think
the
that actually comes up later
oh,
at
that's
one
it.
point.
Oh, interesting. And then so my other note about the Earth thing was just that the twin planet, um, that is a concept that we now know of in terms of like actual I always fucked them astronomy or is it astrology? I always get the two confused.
Astrophysics. I think astronomy. Yeah.
Astronomy, yeah. Is because we understand that to be a thing now, but the way they act on the show, they're genuinely shocked to see one of Earth. 'Cause this once again obviously reminded me of an Orville episode, in the one way, but so it made me go the way they act shocked to find it made me go, oh, is this like a relatively new idea to them? Based
Probably
on the thought process of the writing in the 1960s. I mean,
probably in science fiction. I would imagine in physics that was something that in astrophysics that was something that would have been hypothesized, at least
interesting.
decades before. But actually, the Orville episode you're referring to may be based on a novelization sequel to this episode in which it's explained that this planet, Miri's planet, the duplicate Earth, actually phased into the universe of Star Trek in a similar way to the planet that phases in and
Oh,
out. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Now, of
oh,
course, that was after the fact, so it was retconned in the novel, not.
yeah.
But so I'm like, I like sometimes retcons are fun.
Yeah, interesting.
Often they're stupid, but sometimes they're fun. So a landing party of Kirk, Spock, Dr. McCoy, Yeoman Janice Rand for some reason, and two security personnel they land on the planet and they find that where they land resembles an abandoned 1960s style Earth.
Well, yeah, that's something I said. Of course, they landed in the 1960s. In regards to the town itself, was that a real town?
No, but it's even better. It's even
Really?
better.
Because I thought, oh, this is just a wild, wild west set they've constructed. But then there were points where I'm like, this looks like it's a little town that they've like. But I'm like, does Star Trek have like emptying a town power at this point? I don't think they do.
You are gonna love this. That town is Mayberry from the Andy Griffith Show.
Really? Like the set?
The sets, yes.
Oh, fascinating.
So the outdoor scenes were shot in the streets of the set that stood in for the town of Mayberry in the Andy Griffith Show. Visible are the old courthouse, the barber shop, feed and
Oh,
grain store, Walker's Drugs, the bank, the grocery store, the grand movie theater, and the building with the small porch where the crew runs into the Hotel Mayberry. So
huh.
the porch that the crew runs into is the Hotel Mayberry. And another fun fact, Michael J. Pillard, who
Huh.
plays John, we'll meet him in a
Yeah.
bit, the leader of the kids, played Barney Five's bumbling cousin in the episode Cousin Virgil. And when Kirk asks Spock to estimate the time period, Spock responds with, 1960s specifically.
That's when the show came out, present day.
Yeah, it's kind of like the episode of Deep Space Nine where Cisco, Bashir, and I think Jake time travel back to like 2024, actually.
What is it?
That calendar over there, it says August 30th, 2024.
I'm not sure I understand.
You ever hear of the Bell Riots?
Vaguely.
It is one of the most violent civil disturbances in American history, and it happened right here. San Francisco, Sanctuary District A, the first week of September, 2024.
But that
Oh,
episode came out in the 90s. It was quite
huh.
funny. But I wrote too, I was like, they speak English. That's very convenient. And now, not because the children are speaking English, because the buildings are written in English.
Yep, right. I mean, they speak English.
They do, but you
Uh,
could Star Trek retcons that by saying they have universal translators. So that doesn't mean the kids were
uh,
necessarily speaking. Well, the kids were speaking English because that's what they speak. Um,
yeah.
but we know they speak English because of what's written on their buildings. How did you feel about Yeoman Rand being in the landing party?
Well, I mean, okay. My
My thoughts were, why is a yeoman in a landing party.
I didn't really think too much of it until like this the group shot of all of them running, and she does this silly little run, and I'm like, she feels ill-equipped for this. Like my favorite is like the one red shirt who just like gets all the way around instantly. I'm like, whoa, he booked it. He got like Kirk is the first one there because he slows down to match William Shatner's pace. So Kirk can get up there first. This is genuine. But just the way he kicked her legs. Yeah. Oh shit. I can't make him look bad, but her silly little legs as they flap behind her made me laugh.
And to be fair, this is not saying that women don't belong in a landing party, but a yeoman who is essentially an assistant to the captain. I can't fathom any reason why a yeoman would need to be part of a landing party that even has a slight potential of danger.
That does seem like an odd. Well, I mean, I know why she's there. I know exactly why she's there. But
in the universe reason.
In universe reason, no, I cannot think of a reason. Because isn't she like effectively like a gopher?
She's an assistant. Yeah, she's basically a personal assistant to the captain.
Yeah, no, it seems like an odd time to bring your associate.
I guess maybe he thought he might want coffee when he was down there. I don't know. The landing party is attacked by a disfigured man who has a seizure and dies after Kirk hits him while trying to fend him off. Noise draws the landing party to an abandoned building. I found this scene simultaneously hilarious and actually, but also very good.
I like that. I mean, I've got a number of notes about the makeup. The makeup is sufficiently upsetting looking. I was like, it's pretty. I was impressed by the makeup.
I'm also becoming very impressed because I like to poke fun at Star Trek's fight choreography. But I'll be honest, this scene was actually quite well choreographed.
It was okay.
I do have a note that McCoy needs to learn jujitsu.
I mean, yes, he does.
And then, but holy shit, that got dark really quick.
Yeah.
It really did. Because at first it starts out kind of silly, but then it becomes clear that this man is obviously suffering and manic and is going crazy. Yeah. He's clearly suffering.
He's not well.
I feel like Kirk hits him too many times.
A little bit, yeah. One too many.
But yeah, poor McCoy. He's just he's like me the first time I rolled in jiu-jitsu. It's just had no good idea what to do. He's just kind of on the ground hoping.
Just hoping you're okay.
They discover a teenage girl named Miri who ran away from them because Grups, or what we find out the children refer to as grown-ups, killed and maimed the children on the planet before dying out. She and her friends are onlys, the only ones left. The distress call is traced to an automated signal. This is the first of two or three, more like 3 or 4. This is the first of many uncomfortable scenes.
Well, I mean, when they first find her, my note, Bones says something to the effect of, why would she find us upsetting? Like, well, to be fair, Bones, 5 guys and 1 woman in strange clothes just like accosted her in a closet. So you'd be forgiven to think she wouldn't be upsetting. And then, yes, my note, 2 notes in a row is obviously the first one is Kirk flirting with this child? And then the subsequent note of it really seems like Kirk is flirting with this child.
See, here's the thing, though, and this is where I gave him the benefit of the doubt. So I don't want this to be misconstrued. I'm just telling you what my mindset was while I was watching this scene so that you can understand how it changed later. I wasn't sure if Kirk was rizzing the kid or if this, because William Shatner was a father at this point. So
yeah,
like I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell what they were necessarily going for, and I don't blame William Shatner for this.
I went back to Charlie X. Charlie X is the last time he had to deal with a kid, right?
Yeah, but it was
completely different. Yeah, but I mean, okay, no, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be different.
Okay, I'm gonna push back a little bit there. There are absolutely the way you, and this goes for both genders too. The way you talk to boys is a little different than the way you talk to girls. It
okay,
just is.
Right? Okay, I will give you that. Not this.
I'm not saying this scene was okay. I'm not.
I saw how he interacted with a child before, and I went. That's why I went the red flag city. Red flag city. There's too many red flags for me, and immediately I was like, I will say the reason why my first note is Kirk flirting with the child. That's because you're right. I did give him the benefit of the doubt initially, but eventually I was like, ooh, Justin's uncomfy.
We also do have to understand that you and I are now the product of many things that were not considered creepy in the 1960s that are
Oh,
absolutely
for
considered,
sure.
and wrongfully so, because, for example, the idea of, talking sweetly to a child just because it's a child, or being nice to a child that you don't know is kind of like, that's
Yeah.
considered strange now, when there was a time when it absolutely would not have been.
Yeah, perhaps he okay, benefit of the doubt early on without talking about what happens later in the episode. Yes, maybe okay, you'd be forgiven like he because they do kind of make the case that like they use weird language, but like she has a crush on him. So
Yeah,
like
that
okay,
comes later. That
maybe
comes later.
if he recognizes that, then all right, and he's just kind of going with it to get what they need out of them. All right, but
Which is
nah, dog.
the one question I had, though, before they were attacked by the mutated man, was why does everybody want to touch the fucking tricycle?
Yeah, that was very. That's just a really long shot. Was it Bones just staring at it longingly? It
Well,
was
it's like
like,
Kirk.
was he?
Kirk picks it up, then he hands it to Spock. Spock picks it up, looks at it, and hands it to McCoy for some reason. And then McCoy
I
stares
think
at
the
it for a
idea maybe
very
was
long
probably to be
time.
like, is this is so you get that this is basically Earth. I think it's probably the idea.
The one thing in that scene, though, that kind of broke my heart a little bit was the guy, the mutated guy. One of the last things he says before he dies, spoiler alert, is that it was broken. He
Yeah.
was very upset about this, and he asked if somebody would fix it. And Bones just, DeForest Kelley, it's such a small little moment, but DeForest Kelley delivers a fucking 10 out of 10 performance.
Somebody broke it. Fix. Somebody, please fix.
Of course, somebody will fix it.
Yeah.
Because he says, of course someone will. Nobody's gonna fix the tricycle, but just in that
Right.
moment, Bones has no other idea what to say. And
Right,
it's
because he's a
because
doctor.
McCoy is a healer, though. At
Yeah,
his core,
exactly.
he wants this person to be okay, at least in the moment.
Yeah.
And then he dies. And see, that's what I find, the older I get, the more I like McCoy. When I was a kid, I loved me some Spock, I loved me some Kirk. As like an older man, I really appreciate DeForest Kelley's McCoy.
I'm definitely enjoying it more than I kind of. Yeah, I thought I was gonna be all about Kirk, but oh man, I'm really enjoying some McCoy.
I'm loving the performances. I mean, I really wish I had had the opportunity to meet DeForest Kelley before he passed, because I think this has made me want to go back and watch more of his stuff, because I've
Yeah.
only seen him in Star Trek.
Oh,
So I really want to go back and check out some
just like
DeForest Kelley stuff.
just like just become familiar with his filmography.
Well, because I imagine it's going to be quite good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Back to the uncomfortable scene. I did laugh, though, for a moment, because I said Kirk absolutely lies to a child's face.
A little bit. Yep. Yeah, a little bit.
He did, in fact, hurt the guy
He did.
repeatedly.
He did hurt him repeatedly.
Miri watched you do it, and you just straight
Yeah.
up lied to that child's face.
And they all watched him do it.
Yeah, repeatedly. Question about Miri. Did she give you Judy Garland vibes? Because she gave me Judy Garland vibes.
Oh, you know, now that you say that, a little bit, yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
I was certain she's not. The
Yeah.
actress is not related to Judy Garland, but I was like, is this like a cousin or something? Because I'm getting Judy Garland vibes, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because Judy Garland in A Star Is Born, which is the second version, the first remake, the second version, to this day is one of the movies that can bring me to tears. It is.
Really? I
It's
mean, I'm
because
a Wizard of Oz lover, so you know.
oh, don't get me wrong, I love Wizard of Oz. The reason that version of A Star Is Born, which the Bradley Cooper Lady Gaga version is great too, and the original is phenomenal. I've not seen the Streisand version. I should, though, because I hear it's good as well. But the reason the Judy Garland one is particularly sad for me is because of what happens in the movie, and that was supposed to be the movie that would win Judy Garland her Oscar.
Ah,
And
interesting.
I'll be honest, I've seen Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, I didn't know she would. See, man, I'm just sort of realizing how little I know about Judy Garland's filmography. I didn't know she was in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
No, she's not. Audrey Hepburn won the Oscar.
Oh, I was gonna say. Ah, yeah, I've never seen Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah, and I don't think so. Judy Garland was supposed to. She was pretty much, from what I understand. Again, if you were alive during the 1954 Oscars and I'm wrong, please tell me. But it was my understanding that she was pretty well widely considered to finally be getting her Oscar that year. And I'm not trying to say Audrey Hepburn was bad. I'm not, but I've seen both movies. And I just don't think that the performance in Breakfast at Tiffany's was superior to Judy Garland's in A Star Is Born.
Audrey Hepburn, I think she was in a movie I've seen that I didn't like. I didn't see the what was all the hype around her. I can't remember what it was.
I'm gonna choose my words carefully because I'm not saying she's bad. I'm saying that I I I didn't see it. I didn't see what clearly people in the Academy must have seen. I didn't see it. I also wasn't alive in 1954, so and I
Yeah,
certainly
no,
wasn't watching movies.
neither was I. Wasn't
But
alive back then
and
either.
then I remember too, speaking of Judy Garland, this made me a fan of hers, other than, Dorothy, obviously, grew up with the Wizard of Oz. But this made me really appreciate Judy Garland and the absolute tragedy that was her life. Was I was listening to NPR randomly, and they were playing some excerpts of a performance she'd done at the Grand Ole Opry, because apparently she did that in the later stages of her life, where she would go around and do musical tours. And I'm kicking myself for not remembering because apparently this is an album you can buy, but I cannot find it, or at least you could have bought it at one time. And I wish I'd bought it because there's a moment where she's finished up a song, and I clearly it's been recorded because they played it on NPR, and the audience starts singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and Judy just has this moment. It's so sweet where she basically, and you can tell in her voice she's actually very happy right now. She tells him, she says, "We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get them all." And I'm just like, that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, that's very sweet.
The landing party, except for Spock, notice purple lesions on their bodies. Miri tells them that these are the first signs of the disease that has infected the planet, and they will soon become like the other adults. The party find a medical research laboratory and look through documents for clues to the disease, discovering that it is a side effect of the life extension experiment affecting those who have reached puberty. Death follows a brief period of violent madness. The children are actually over 300 years old, aging 1 month every century, but show the
Um,
mental and emotional maturity of their biological age rather than their actual age. Basically, they discover that they have about 7 days before the disease is going to overtake them, but they find that Spock is apparently immune. He considers himself a carrier, though, and he cannot return to the Enterprise. Well, Spock may not be a carrier, but this sponsor is the carrier of everything you need.
As far back as I can remember, I have wanted to be an entrepreneur. Now, I am here to guide you through the intricate paths of building your business, embracing emerging technologies and navigating the startup world. I am Saul Tarazona, and this is Startup Corps, your go-to podcast for entrepreneurial insights and tech-driven success.
And this is the synopsis talking, not me. Kirk uses his charm on Miri to persuade her to show him the other children. I'm going to rewrite that sentence right now.
Okay, so I got a number of notes. Post Kirk flirting with the child the first time. So I initially called it the town that makes you old because that's what it kind of looked like. So they're trying to create immortality. Is that the
Yes.
idea here? Yeah,
Or
yeah.
at the very, I don't know about immortality, but at the very least, life extension.
And is the town that makes you old not affecting Spock because he's an alien? Is that the
Yeah,
the
that's
idea?
basically.
Yeah.
Thankfully, this is one of the episodes where I think it actually works better that they don't go into the why. They just acknowledge that there must
Yeah.
be something about his alien physiology that
You don't need
I
to.
actually. Well, I actually have a note here that Spock highlights. This episode with Spock highlights the big advantage of having a biologically diverse crew on your ship.
True. Yeah, that's true. It does make it so. Yeah, situations like this, you have someone who has a level head. Yeah, up until this point, I had a note that said they keep saying children, but We only ever see her up until that point. We'd only really seen her. We had heard some children, so I thought that maybe there was a twist coming where she was the only one left, and she was making it seem, but that's not what ended up happening.
Oh, that would have turned this into a horror episode, although a different kind of uncomfortable. Now, the first note I have is this got very uncomfortable. I'd given
Yeah,
Kirk the benefit of the doubt before, but this got creepy. At
so we
least,
actually,
I will say this, at least the actress was 19 years old at the time of filming.
yeah, they keep mentioning the fact that she's 300 years old as if that makes it okay. But like my note is, yeah, but she still has the mind of a child, so it doesn't matter. The ethics of this are still bad. She may have lived for 300 years, but she still has the mental capacity of like a what 16-year-old girl.
This may be the only situation that I've ever seen on film or in reality in which the purposeful manipulation of a child is better than the alternative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oof.
If he's purposefully manipulating her just to get more information, I'm like, I don't like it, but at the very least, the motivation is
Well, that's sort of what I thought it was, where it was like he knew that she had a crush on him, and he was utilizing that.
yeah.
Like
With yeah,
I thought that it was fake. I
yeah, but
doubted it by the end, but initially I thought it was fake. He was faking it.
I think it was. I do think it was, but the episode just did a very poor job of showing that.
Buttons it in a weird way. I don't know. Well, we're gonna get to the button. We're gonna get there. Where's this gonna turn to? We talked about how weird this episode was.
Ooh. You want to know a fun fact though to lighten the mood?
Sure.
The actress Iona Morris, known for the voice role of Storm in X-Men the Animated Series, has an
Oh,
uncredited role as one of the children.
really? I did
Yep.
not know that.
On IMDb,
Huh.
she is billed as the little African American girl
Huh. Interesting.
because obviously she is African American. But yeah, she went on to play Storm in X-Men. So another fun fact about the kids, though, is several of the children on the planet were portrayed by relatives of the Trek cast and crew. Among them were
Oh,
William Shatner's two daughters, Elizabeth and Melanie, Grace Lee
really?
Whitney, who plays Yeoman Rand's son Scott, and Vincent, the director's son, Stephen, and Gene Roddenberry's daughters, Darlene and Dawn, all played children in this
Oh,
episode.
interesting. Interesting. Any of the main ones, just like background ones.
They were background ones for the
Oh,
most part.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Um, I put down here because when Kirk is talking to the kids, or I'm sorry, when Kirk and Miri go the first time to try to talk to the kids and they all hide, a girl apparently hits puberty right in the moment because she comes in and attacks Kirk, and I just put down Kirk keeps killing kids.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. No, well, he to be fair, to be fair to this one, he did have his laser set from to stun, so he
Yes,
didn't mean to. It was
it's
this was an accident. I will give him this one.
it's still funny. It's still funny.
It is still
Shouldn't be funny,
funny.
but it's still funny. I also have to call out John, so the boy in the like army jacket who's clearly the ringleader.
I quite
That's
liked him actually.
I did, but he clearly hit puberty already.
I mean, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
But he was
yeah,
20,
he
the
did.
actor was 27 when they shot this episode.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, the one kid who I had, who the other second in command or whatever, he sounded like he was being dubbed over by a child. Like he didn't look like a child, but he sounded like he was being voiced over by one.
Yeah, I don't know if he was or not, but it did seem that way. Mistrustful of the Grubs, the children disperse when Kirk and Miri approach their hideout. John, the older boy and the leader of the children, steals the landing party's communicators, rendering McCoy's search for a cure impossible without the Enterprise's computers. When Yeoman Rand panics at their impending fate and Kirk comforts her, a jealous Miri runs away and schemes with their friends to kidnap Rand.
And
Okay,
she's like, "I wanted you to look at my legs. Look at my legs, Kirk."
another but different uncomfortable moment. And my thought immediate was like, by this point, her being Kirk's yeoman is just beyond inappropriate.
A little bit, yeah. It's like
After
the second or third time she's been like, "I want you to." I want you to love me, Captain Kirk, in the physical sense.
Well, and then, the assault perpetrated by the dark side of Kirk, and then the assault that was narrowly avoided thanks to Kirk, but still
Right?
because he failed to. I don't know if you can blame Kirk for Charlie necessarily, but you know,
Yeah.
I feel like for
I'd
a
want to
character,
transfer off that ship and be
I
like, I
was
want a
gonna
new
say
position, please.
for a character that in this string of like, what are we on, episode 9 of the
Yeah,
original
episode 9, yeah.
series? Well, okay, so actually episode 8 of the series, because that's not including the pilot. For
Oh, yeah.
episode 8 of a television series, and I would say at least half of which Yeoman Rand has been slighted in some fashion.
She sure gets victimized a lot.
Yeah, I kind of feel
I,
like, well, and buckle up because I discovered something that just absolutely fucking sucks about
oh, those are never fun.
yeah, about Grace Lee Whitney, and totally not, absolutely nothing bad about her, but it just fucking broke my heart when I heard that. But anyway, that's coming.
The performance though in that scene, that's what I was gonna say, quite good. Lot of decent acting happening in this episode. I really like that they're slow. Like, do I have a note about it? Yeah. Everyone, the performance of everyone just like at their wits' end. It's just really good. It's just really good.
Yeah, everybody kind of losing it a little bit because we've all been in those
Yeah,
situations where it's like
yeah,
you don't mean it, and this, I'm saying this is how they're playing it. You don't mean it, and everybody knows you don't mean it, but you still can't help but feel a little bit pissy
yeah.
about
Like,
it.
we're talking about DeForest Kelley, but yeah, McCoy just every time he snaps at Spock and Spock not getting mad at him and it just making him more mad is genuinely good. It's good stuff.
That is good. More sweaty Kirk in
More
that
sweat. Yeah, he's very sweaty, Kirk.
very
Very,
moist man again.
he's a very moist man. I will never regret writing that down. That is a very I
That's
stand by that. I stand by that joke.
you actually make me notice now every time Kirk sweats profusely, and now I'm like, I can't not see it now.
See,
This
and
is
it's funny
wonderful.
because now I notice it when he's not. So like every time he's like, oh man, he's not very moist this episode. Like last couple weeks, he hasn't been terribly moist.
Nope,
But you
but
can tell because he's stressed this episode. That's
yeah,
why he's so moist.
clearly it was warm down on Miri's Earth.
I'm guessing. So okay, wait. So I guess we did kind of we're at the bit where they talk about how how whatever this thing is works, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I have questions.
We will get to those in a moment, but first, it's time to sell you something again. The veil between her world and the other realm has faded, unleashing magic into the lives of ordinary citizens. Awakening from a 4-year coma, Tori James discovers a world transformed. For some, like Tori, the unveiling ignites hidden abilities. With her expertise in classical languages, she's drawn into a world of thieves and magic. Join Tori on her magical journey in Book 1 of the Unveiled book series, Revival. Unveil your destiny. So you had some questions before we delve back into the story.
Well, yes, okay. So I just don't understand the logic. So they were trying to create a disease that would effectively extend life. I've written immortality, but we've covered its extending life. But that seems counterintuitive to use a virus to I'm not a virologist, but that doesn't feel like how viruses work. You don't just smash them together and hope for like a virus that will give you a positive thing. I don't know. The whole idea of it just didn't make any sense to me.
Okay, so I do have a couple answers, one in fiction and one in the real world. They actually smash viruses together all the time. Normally for research though on how to understand how viruses work.
Yeah, not to use
See,
on people though, I guess is my point.
well, yeah, but I mean, see the pandemic of 2020, because
There.
that's exactly what they did. But in a fictional example, you've got the new Planet of the Apes franchise that all begins because they use a viral therapy to treat Alzheimer's.
Right.
So this
Right.
is actually,
I forgot about that. You're right.
and the reason, and I think there's some, not being a virologist or even a biologist,
That's why I was
This
like, I'm not a virologist. I could be wrong about this. I made that very clear.
If you are a virologist, we may do like a special bonus episode of like virologist explains, like germs on Star Trek. That would be fun. That would be very fun.
That would be
But
pretty fun.
that might be some premium content coming because actually I haven't talked to you about that yet, but you don't get to know about it yet, but soon, when we know, when we know. So what I'm getting at though is based upon my knowledge of how viruses propagate, it would actually be, if you could control it, which seems to be the issue, it would seem to be a very effective way to administer some kind of therapy or treatment or
I suppose that's true. It makes it easier to like take hold. I suppose. I guess now that I'm thinking this out, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. I give it the benefit of the doubt now. It makes a little more sense.
Well, the problem, though, and I'm sure that this is what a virologist would say, is viruses also have a tendency to mutate rapidly and
Yeah.
often. So
Yeah.
your therapy to prolong life would probably end up killing you, just because.
Well, demonstratively, whenever they utilize it in fiction, it always does.
Well, because I think if there's any way to prove that God has a sense of humor, if he exists, is that humanity thinking that we can control like microorganisms.
True.
It is we demonstrate time and again that we certainly can't control them, and we still fight to understand them
That is absolutely true.
to this day. Any other questions involving the virus?
No, I think I got it.
So McCoy discovers a possible vaccine for the disease, but without the ability to check the dosage with the ship's computers, the vaccine may kill the patient. Kirk tells Miri that they will all contract the disease if they don't help him find a cure. Upon realizing that she herself is infected, Miri brings Kirk to where Rand is being held. At John's urging, the children swarm and gang up on Kirk. An injured and bleeding Kirk then angrily begs the children to think of the youngest among them, who will be helpless when the older ones are dead. He points out that their food supplies are running out very conveniently. By the way, these kids have been alive for 300 fucking years, but when the Enterprise comes, they just so happen to be running out of food.
Right.
The children will starve within 6 months. Convinced, John gives the communicators back to Kirk.
My thing was like, so 6 months of like our time, or like 6 months of like, you know what I mean?
Valid question. Valid question.
How? Like, is that like 6 months in their time, which is like hundreds of years? Because they'll be fine.
We talking human years or alien kid years?
Right. And is that the point where they just all gang up on Kirk and beat the shit out of him? Because I thought that was pretty funny. I'm pretty sure you can fight some of them off, Kirk. You can fight at least a few of them off. At least you can subdue them.
It goes back to the question, like how many children can you take at once? It's like,
well, I mean, my favorite bit is where he just hip toss. Like, I thought he was just taking him off the table. I actually went back and rewatched it. I'm like, no, he just straight up threw that child through him. Like,
I don't think
he's like, woof.
To William Shatner's defense, I don't think the kid was supposed to go limp. Like,
no, but he went flying. I was like, whoa. And I realized I forgot to mention earlier about and I'm going to mention it about. Well, I'll save it because I have a special effect related question coming up. So
my two notes for this scene is, damn, kids are annoying.
I mean, yeah, they are.
And
with their weird made up language.
Yeah, and Kirk needs to slap some kids, like real.
I mean, he could take out at least one or two of them and establish some dominance. That's all I'm saying.
That's what Kirk does with other aliens. He just pops one to again establish dominance.
You got to take out the big one with the military vest or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Kirk would do that. Picard would slap one of the little ones and be like, "Now you see what I'll do to you," and strike fear into them.
I'm bigger than you. Just picture every time I think of Patrick Stewart, I think of him on American Dad, but like not him as the CIA director, but the episode where it's the play and he's the narrator or whatever, and it keeps cutting to him in live action and he's like asleep and he's just insane. Yeah, I love Patrick Stewart.
I will say this: I pick on Picard a lot, but I absolutely love Patrick Stewart. And
how could you not love Patrick Stewart?
I think he's got an amazing sense of humor to do basically whatever Seth MacFarlane asks him to do.
Yeah, I love how him and Seth MacFarlane are like best friends. It's great.
And I am reminded of the episode of American Dad where Bullock ends up sleeping with Haley. And he comes down, "I love little girls. They make me feel so bad."
I love when on Family Guy where he's Joe, the inner monologue of Joe's daughter. Like, oh, he's hilarious. He's very funny
I forgot about that.
for like no reason. It's super funny. I mean, yeah,
And,
there's a number of bullet quotes me and Jordan say like all the time.
and then, of course, the Family Guy cutaways of Star Trek: The Next Generation. My personal favorite. Number one. What would you do if I said Commander Wolf's head looks like a fanny?
I don't know, Captain. What would you say?
Commander Wolf's head looks like a fanny. It's like, you can all suck my ridges.
Mine, the one that I swear to God, I saw it as a Robot Chicken sketch. I'm positive I've seen it as both a Robot Chicken sketch and a Family Guy cutaway. But it's the bit, I think I mentioned it before, where it's Spock and he wins the lottery. He's like, "You can suck it, you can suck it, you can suck it, live long and suck it." I'm positive I've seen it as both a Family Guy cutaway and and I'm like, it's one of those like, or am I suffering a Mandela effect? I'm one of those moments where I'm like,
maybe, but that'll be a good place. So in the very, very distant future, I do want to do a season where we cover Star Trek parodies, and one of which my personal favorite Star Trek, well, my second favorite Star Trek parody, the Star Wreck Zone. One of my favorite jokes where every time somebody says fire at will, somebody takes out a phaser and shoots Riker.
it's funny.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. Kirk rounds up the children and returns to the laboratory or the laboratory. Laboratory. But returns to the laboratory, but in desperation, McCoy has already injected himself with a dose of the vaccine. The doctor's sores fade, confirming the cure's effectiveness and McCoy's never-ending luck.
I mean, my three notes. First note, that's why you never test an untested medication on yourself. And then the next few notes are just about technically how they made the blemishes disappear off his face. I was like, clearly that's a freeze frame, but the cuts were too seamless to just be cut. They don't look like it was cuts in terms of editing. Like they were disappearing pretty seamlessly. I was impressed by it. I'm like, I don't think this has been done up with digital effects from like our time.
No, I think they may have literally just had DeForest Kelley laying there, and what they probably did was they started out with no makeup effects and then added them and then just reversed it in editing.
Oh, interesting. Oh, okay. Because I'm like, it doesn't look like they went and take one off cut because I didn't see any cuts.
Yeah,
I didn't notice
however,
it. More in that area, you noticed them.
Yeah, I know what you're saying though, because that was pretty seamless. So I kind of have a hard time that makeup. I mean, maybe they just had stick-ons, which would explain how
Maybe.
DeForest Kelley was able to stay perfectly still.
I assumed it was just a freeze frame still shot, and they just
maybe,
it was,
but
they
even
took
then,
one picture.
But they would still have to. Oh, maybe. You know what? That might be how they did it. They may have just. I don't know.
Painted
That's a
over
good question.
over the cell because I assume at this
Maybe.
point they still shoot on film, right?
Yeah. They're shooting on film.
My other question was way back at the beginning of the episode. The transporter effect when they landed on the planet, all how many five or six of them, is that done up or did they actually have like that electron? How do they like? Them appearing out of nowhere with that electronic kind of effect. Like how would they have done that in the 60s? Because they don't have computers to make
I
knew
the answer to this before, and I have to look it up, but I will do that for next episode. Because I actually did know at one point, but I have forgotten. Back on the Enterprise, after vaccinating everyone and leaving the children in the care of medical team, Kirk sends for teachers and advisors to help the children improve their lives. Finally, Captain Kirk actually responsibly resolves a situation on an alien planet.
Yeah, well, he mentioned okay, what is Space Central?
I have a note about that. So it's now become a joke. Like DBZ Abridged does it. Everybody does it when you're doing something like in space. You just take something innocuous and just put space in front of it. You know, like
space prefix,
like Space Australia. Yeah. But this was done unironically, and the answer to this is clearly just because I put Kirk mentions Space Central, and this just has to be before they've established the concept of Starfleet Command in the show's like show Bible.
Gotcha. So that's what would become Starfleet Command. Because it doesn't sound like Starfleet is a thing. They're just like, we're on a starship. Like they don't really seem to work for anyone identified or specified.
Yeah, correct. Not yet. Although it's interesting because Star Trek has been running so long, we often forget that there was a time where concepts like the Federation and Starfleet and even the hierarchical system of the Admiralty and whatnot just hadn't been thought of yet and would
Yeah.
eventually become, again, the show's canon. But as of right now, like I said, we're only in episode 8 of the original series, so it makes sense that yeah, episode 8. So I mean, yeah, it would make sense. So they just threw space in front of shit and be like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they need to be like, we need to get something from headquarters. What do we call headquarters? Space Central.
and another happy note, no red shirts were harmed in the making of this episode.
I didn't mention it, but I did have a note earlier that basically said that Red Shirt's dead and then he didn't die. So there were no Red Shirts died this
I did too.
episode.
I saw him running in that alley. I'm like, oh, he's gonna get killed by some kids.
Right?
He
I'm
did
like,
not.
he's gonna get Children of the Corn.
I'm gonna say this now, and hopefully you have something else to add because I don't want to end the episode on this big of a downer. But I just when I read this, I went, gee, fuck. So apparently, um, during the Friday end of week party on August 26th, after they filmed this episode, Grace Lee Whitney was sexually assaulted by a member of the show whom she identified as the executive in her autobiography, The Longest Trek, My Tour of the Galaxy. Um,
Ooh.
oh, it gets worse. She was fired soon afterwards,
Really?
strengthening her depression and alcohol addiction. I really want to read her book now. I didn't know she had a book.
Yeah.
So
She
now
sounds like an interesting. I mean, considering she's such a prominent character and she doesn't have the same level of respect early on anyway, she doesn't have the same level of iconography that the rest of the characters seem to.
well, I mean, she was fired from the show soon after this, so maybe one or two
Yeah.
more episodes and then
I mean, I don't have a lot. I mean, I do. Wait, yeah, I do have some notes about okay, Kirk at the end of the episode, um, being like Yeoman Rand, I don't go for older women, bro. She's still a child. She's still a child, bro. You're gross and weird. Don't like it. And I just didn't. I don't love this episode, man. And now that I
I
know that she got fired off the back of it, I don't love. I don't love it even more. I didn't love it.
well
We were straight with you.
the other kind of funny thing is that Grace Lee Whitney is actually older than William Shatner. So
Really?
yeah,
Interesting. Interesting. I would not have guessed that. Now I figured that.
yeah. I'm just gonna say I chuckled at the joke a little bit because I saw it as Kirk being like, stop poking fun at me for this awkward situation I was in.
Yeah, but it's like, hey, Kirk, you could have made it clear that you were not. You're still making it because he does the thing where he looks off into the middle distance and like, it's like, dude, it makes it think like you were into her, and
Oh,
that's
see, no,
weird,
I didn't read it that way. I read him as him ignoring uh, whoever said that she loved you, and I'm just like, I don't understand why that line was put in because it's obviously she didn't. She was a child. She didn't know what she was feeling. It was all
right?
like,
Like,
and even if that were true, why would you acknowledge it? You know what I
right?
mean?
Like again, the consent is weird. It was weird. It was weird. You're right. I To be fair, I did think overall there's some good performances in this episode. Like Kirk appealing to the kids. Anytime he breaks out of the talking like this, Mr. Spock, like, and he gets to like get emotional and like actually demonstrate some acting. I'm like, you know what? He's not a bad actor like William Shatner. That William Shatner guy, not a bad actor. But just there's too many weird vibes. It's too many weird vibes.
Well, the thing
The
is, just
vibes were
about
off.
yeah, just about every Star Trek captain has a certain cadence that they're
Yeah.
acting or penchants. Like, Picard is prone to like speaking very firmly and then sometimes going into a rage when he's, you know, yelling in a Shakespearean manner, you know.
Yeah, fair
Um,
enough.
and Benjamin Sisko, who my personal favorite captain, does have a tendency to he's got a very distinct cadence and way of speaking that I can't really emulate because I don't sound anything like Avery Brooks. Um,
Fair enough.
but if you've seen Deep Space Nine, you know he has a way of speaking that is mimicable. And then Janeway, of course, also has kind of a distinct So I think Scott Bakula might be the only one that doesn't have, say, I mean, he has a cadence to his voice, obviously, but I think that might be the only one that you can't really poke too much fun at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just William Shatner. It's just he's just known. He has a certain cartoonishness to him.
But it's funny how when you actually watch Star Trek, you see how. Don't get me wrong, it's there,
Oh, it's there.
but how blown out of proportion it truly is.
It's to a degree, but also like
But
it's
there's
there.
basis. There's basis.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I see it. Every time I'm like, oh no, I don't get where this is coming from. Then like a line or like anytime I'm like, no, this isn't that silly. Yeah, he's doing a Kirk roll or a Kirk uppercut or a Kirk, and I'm like, okay, no, I get it.
Hey,
I understand where this comes from.
We've established the Kirk rolls, while unnecessary, often are technically sound.
They are technically. And hey, man, he hit through that kid off of that table. He
sure
just
did.
threw him. He just threw that boy.
He's like, fuck them kids.
Yeah. It's just it's funny. Even if he was a grown adult, like in universe, Kirk has no problem. He just threw that child. He didn't even care.
I would like to believe that if Kirk had access to a holosuite after this encounter, he would have created a program that was just an endless, like it starts out with one kid, and when he beats that kid, two kids come at him. And,
See, my
and it
hope
just
was that like
doubles.
my hope was that after Charlie X, he would like maybe learn how to, in the event he had to deal with the child, he would learn how to deal with the child. Like, he would do like go to the holodeck, like take some lessons on how to deal with children. You know what I mean? Like just have a holographic child he can like learn how to talk to like a normal person.
Nah.
No,
Nah.
he should just flirt with everyone going forward.
If it has a pulse and looks remotely like a human female.
I enjoyed the like delicate dance we're doing here.
Well, no, because some of them are aliens. They may not have a uterus. That's what. That's
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
if
fair.
we're gonna be technically sound on anatomy, I was about to say pulse in a uterus, but I'm like, well, hang on, we don't know.
I mean, if it's anything like Doctor Who, I always love Doctor Who went to the notion of like humans from like a certain point on, they're aliens, like they're gonna love everyone. It's like you're just gonna. It's gonna happen. It's like if there's enough humanoid aliens out there, humans they're gonna love some green ladies. Like it would happen. You love everybody.
I don't see anything wrong with green ladies.
No, I never said I did.
Yeah.
I just said it was the logical conclusion of the future.
You got a problem with green ladies?
No, not one. I'm just saying the logical progression of the future is that we'll all love green ladies.
It's just you can picture somebody. I'm surprised Lower Decks hasn't made a joke about it. Probably because one of their main characters is an Orion female, but just it's like, no, I don't have anything against green ladies. It's just not my preference, man. I just don't like green.
Yeah, that does seem like a Lower Decks joke.
Yeah, but again, one of their main characters is an Orion, so kind of.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Or maybe that actually could be an episode they could have written like she's really crushing on just like another crew member, and the crew member is just like not ignoring her, but like treating her like very platonically, and then at the end she'd be like, I just don't like green girls.
There's not any green girls, man.
And then and the episode ends with her being like, that racist.
It's all been an elaborate metaphor for racism. Dang it.
I mean, it's not easy being green. Oh, well, anyway, that was Miri.
It's a very weird episode.
I don't know. I was gonna say I still have some mixed feelings because there were parts I really liked and parts that I
liked the performances. I didn't love the story so much. I liked this episode better when it was an episode of South Park.
Yeah, it was better as an episode of South Park.
There was less weird consent issues in that episode. Although I started to say it and I immediately was like, you know what? No, I think I might be wrong about that one.
No, but the thing is, South Park somehow makes it funny because they're 8-year-old cartoons and they're ridiculous.
So okay. So now that I'm parsing this out, I don't want to say the name. If you know the episode I'm talking about, you know the name of it. Is that a reference to the questionable age and consent gap in this episode? It has to be, right? There's no way it's not.
I would automatically say yes, were it not for the fact that all of the main characters in South Park are they in 3rd or 4th grade? I can't remember. I think they're in 4th grade by that point. But
I think they're in the 4th grade by that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're all 4th graders. So
no, I meant the episode like having to do with that in terms of like a meta sense, like. They made it about that was the jumping off point. Yeah, from Matt and Trey's perspective, I mean, do you think it's a reference to the questionable?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because yeah, or it's just a weird coincidence. And to be fair, I've tried googling if that because last time I watched that episode, I was like, this feels like it's based on something, and then I didn't see that it was based on Star Trek. This was the first time I'd seen that it was based on that, which again I thought was funny.
Yeah. But I believe the next episode is not as uncomfortable. So next week we're gonna take a look at Dagger of the Mind.
Ooh.
I think we're gonna get back into quasi-normal territory here because it's been a weird couple of episodes.
It has been. This is the weirdest one for me. This was the weirdest. This was the first time where I was like, I'm not having fun with this one.
Wait, were those episodes were the really okay? So I'm not the weird episodes, the really sexual episodes. I think those were during sweeps.
That'll do it. I'll do
Yeah,
it.
I think that was right in the middle of sweeps. So yeah,
I'll do it.
side boob is justified.
God, does anyone do any of our Gen Z audience members know what sweeps is?
We need to explain sweeps.
I barely know what sweeps is, and I'm 34.
If I'm gonna look up the actual definition because when somebody says sweeps, I understand what it means, but I don't want to.
Right, it's one of the things like you understand because you've seen it in television. Like I know it because of Bruce Almighty, or it's like because of sweeps. It has something to do with the Nielsen ratings, I imagine.
Yes, sweeps definition television.
Do they even have that anymore? Is that still a metric?
I think it might be actually, but so sweeps is a term used to describe a period of time when television networks and stations schedule programming to attract larger audiences. These periods are crucial for determining advertising rates for the year and are also used to make program scheduling decisions. So yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so no, this would have been just prior to sweeps because sweeps occur 4 times a year, February, May, July, and November. So we're not quite to sweeps
Interesting.
yet, but it could have been like a build up to sweeps.
So like
Oh,
that's
okay. The actual dates can extend into neighboring months. The most important sweeps are generally considered to be May and November, followed July. So yeah,
yeah, that makes
we're
sense.
in sweeps. We're in sweeps. For a new show, we're
Yeah,
absolutely in sweeps.
because May November that would be assuming their television blocks work similar to how they do now. That's just after your fall premieres. Like your shows have had about a month
Well, yeah,
to
because
get into.
Star Trek's a fall
um
premiere. One
yeah
One Tree Hill did the same thing when they premiered because they basically they dialed up the sexy hardcore because the OC was doing that, and those were two very
yeah
similar shows that premiered at the same time. And
and then it being in May makes sense because then that's your spring season, your March. See, people
yep,
don't understand how television works anymore.
I know, and I'll be honest, it was funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I kind of miss it. I do. I really
This
do.
is my end of episode hot take that I said. Jordan always disagrees with me on this. I think they should bring back cable.
Oh, I think they would love to because there are multiple reasons why
They're
the industry
trying
would
to,
love.
but
Well, there are multiple reasons why the industry would love to. The most specific one is the unions would love it because the original film and television model were great for royalties. Streaming,
yes,
not so much. Syndication, huge for royalties.
yeah.
Huge. You had people that would literally forego, particularly with movies, that would forego a larger salary for a larger percentage of royalties. And the thing that people don't understand is every time a movie is broadcast on like regular cable television, there's a licensing fee that's paid for that.
Yeah.
And if you've got a royalty agreement, you get a cut of that. And if you have movies that are played on, like Back to the Future, which is still played multiple times a year across multiple
Mm.
television channels, that's big for royalties. That's big.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's much better for advertising dollars because viewership on cable I always use this model. It's part of the reason why we do the podcast the way we do, is the fact that free media is always the best to attract viewers for advertising dollars because, well, until streaming. But that's really because
Mm.
you don't have an alternative. If they were free streaming services that had the quality of programming like your Hulu's, your Netflix's, your what is it, your HBO Max's, your Disney Pluses, they would be number one.
Yeah.
because
Oh
like
yeah, for sure.
Tubi's
Why YouTube
Tubi's
still hangs in there.
yeah, but YouTube doesn't. YouTube has some free movies, but it's not like.
Yeah,
But
no,
if
Tubi's got an excellent model. I
yeah,
want to get sponsored by them so badly.
Tubi people, and I was one of them. People really slept on Tubi. Um,
Mhm.
at first it was justified because Tubi used to be the shits, which is why I didn't because
Oh yeah,
it was all like D-rated horror movies. It was bad shit. It was just bad.
I'm getting good
Now
licensing over there though that I don't understand
they
how.
probably because a lot of the movies are just they're not necessarily old, but they're old enough now to
They
not
got all
and
the DCEU movies. Like they got Batman
well
versus Superman, Justice League, all of them.
that might be Canada only. I'd have to check US licensing because that's
Interesting.
another thing. International licensing is different. Um, but even in the US, right, you've got some movies that if cable were still around, there's no chance in hell Tubi would have them because they'd be playing on the various, free movie
Yeah,
channels like FX and
true.
you know, they used to be all over the place. I think they still exist, but like TBS, USA, running all
Yeah,
their movies and whatnot. But yeah, now Tubi gets them, and all the Godzilla catalog for the most part is on there. There's a couple movies that
great.
aren't again because of licensing
Yeah.
issues, but yeah. So I honestly do miss. It's streaming's awesome. I feel like when the DVR came out, that was the glory days of it was
Oh
the it was
yeah.
the perfect midpoint of like still really good quality TV, but not necessarily having to be home at 6 p.m. on Friday, for example, to watch
That's
your
why I
show.
liked it. But
Yeah, that was
I used to record a lot of my shows on VHS tapes, so then I wouldn't have to like just
yeah.
fast forward. I can't stand commercials.
See, I don't mind them. I actually kind of like them.
No, no, no. Give me an option to, but I
I'm
can
weird.
deal with them because I'm a millennial, so I'm used to them. So like Tubi, it's like, oh yeah, you
So,
get one ad break as opposed to the three you used to get when we used to watch TV. Yeah, not so bad.
so I'm the weird guy. I like showing up to the movie theater early because I want to see all the previews.
Oh, well, that's different. Movie trailers are that different animals.
That's fair.
And
They are different. They are different.
yeah, they were a different story. And I love me some movie previews, but no, I don't like the 5 minutes of commercials they do before. Although in Canada we have our Cineplex, we have a little their little shorts that play before each of the movies. They're like a
Oh,
commercial for
nice.
one of our banks, and they're little popcorn characters, and they go
Nice.
on like little adventures and stuff. And they're actually me and Jordan love them. We think they're funny.
I
But
do. I
beyond
think
that, no, I
that's
hate
cool.
them.
I just hate the Maria Menounos thing. I don't know if you guys have those. And what I hate more than anything is your cinema probably isn't an AMC.
No, 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 no. We have what's called Cineplex.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard Cineplex. We just don't have one around here. But AMC has this weird like bumper video with Nicole Kidman explaining why we
Really?
all love movies. It's the fucking worst. It's awful.
Weird. My
It's
thing is like I see clips of like AMC with like these TikTokers on it that I'm just like, oh, I don't know why. I don't know why it makes me more. I'm just like, oh,
Listen, I
like
love AMC. The AMC is probably my favorite movie theater chain, at least in my area, because there is varying degrees of quality depending on where you are. I've been to some AMC theaters where I'm like, this is the shits, but most of them, at least close to where I live, are great. It's my favorite one to go to. However, every time I know it word by word now because I've seen it so many damn times. It's annoying. They've never changed it in like
you have certain ones of those, yeah, where you can just quote it word for word.
I think they rolled
Yeah,
that one out in like 2017, 2018, somewhere around there, and
there
it
was
hasn't
one.
changed.
There was one they did where it was a Christmas one, where it was like they had licensed a particular song, and it was an animated short. It was a Christmas animated short, but you could tell that it was. We went to a movie in March, and they were still playing it. And Jordan said to me, he's like, that short was clearly very expensive because they're still showing it in
Yes, they're
March, and it
still.
was yeah,
Well,
you could
anyway,
tell
we're
it cost them a
we're
lot of money.
we're becoming the problem. So,
Yeah. I
so
was just
yes,
thinking
check
that.
out. Thank you for enjoying this episode of the Final Frontier. We'll see you guys next week. Where, like I said, once again, we'll talk about Dagger of the Mind, and hopefully it will be less weird. But hopefully you learned something. We will see you next week. Until
Next
then, live long and suck it. If you are of an appropriate age.
Yes, an important thing to mention.
If you are not, then you can prosper.
Right.
Well, buckle
Oh.
up, everybody, because it's time to visit the planetarium.
I get excited. So I got really excited when the Vulcan. I was like, the Vulcan mind meld.
I predict that many, many centuries in the future, there will be this thing called television.